Hello and welcome to All About Cars, our weekly show where we take all your car related questions. And now let's start with the question that we've received on Instagram. First up, we've got Abu Daya. Abu Daya is asking us which is the best SUV to buy between 8 and 9 lakh rupees and why. So we'd say the Nissan Magnite makes a lot of sense because it's just been introduced. The top spec is 9.3x showroom, but you can settle for the lower ones, especially the turbo version. And in terms of quality, in terms of space, in terms of drivability, attention to detail, all of that, I think Nissan's done a wonderful job. So that's a car that you can definitely go for in your price bracket. Madhukar is asking us again about the Nissan Magnite, and he says that how is the build quality of the Nissan Magnite and is there any information on the safety ratings for the car. So build quality wise, given the price, I think there are no issues. There were no glaring poor fit and finish options there. What you had was maybe some places the quality of plastic is probably a little cheaper than what you'd want, but overall I think the build quality, the fit and finish, all of it exudes premiumness more than its price demands or price indicates. In terms of safety ratings, we've not heard anything. Nissan hasn't shared any details, and I don't think G-NCAP has tested the car, but of course it meets all the Indian test norms which are conducted at 56 kilometers per hour. Sunil wants to know whether it's better to go for the Ertiga VXI, brand new, or a pre-owned Innova Crysta. It actually depends on what your usage is going to be. If you're going to end up with more than 5 people in the car traveling together more often than not, then I'd say the Innova would probably make more sense. But the key with the thing that you need to be careful about with the Innova is that these are heavily used vehicles. So though extremely reliable in every which way, but that's something that you have to be mindful about because there might be some service costs that you won't be able to see. But again, I mean, if you're looking for a proper 7-seater, then of course the Innova makes sense. But if you're not going to use the car for more than 5 people very often, I think a brand new car, Ertiga, you're at least safeguarded for 5 years. So that would be a more sensible option to go for. Prasun says that he's looking at a compact SUV and his budget is about 10 to 11 lakh rupees. He's tempted about going for the Nissan Magnite, but he has inhibitions about the build quality, and he also wants us to help him in deciding whether he should go for the Magnite CVT or the Sonet HTK IMT. So build quality, we just talked about it a couple of questions earlier. No real issues there. We've spent some time with the car, not an extended period of time, but from whatever we've seen, it seems to be well put together. There shouldn't be any issues that you should see. A lot of things are proven. We've seen quite a few things from the Triber in terms of the naturally aspirated engine and essentially the same platform that they share. So there are no real issues with the Triber, and so we don't think that the same that you're going to experience any major issues or anything of the sort with the Magnite. So a good option to go for. Sonet or Magnite, CVT or HTK IMT. I'm a fan of CVTs and Nissan does wonderfully good CVTs. So if I were to pick, I'd say if you're looking for a more refined automatic, if you're looking for a proper automatic experience, then the Magnite CVT makes more sense. The IMT gives you a little more control in your driving, and but like I said, if you want a proper automatic, the Magnite CVT is a safe option, good option to go for. Guna has written to us and is asking what's a good SUV to buy for under 20 lakh rupees. Criteria are good performance, reliability, value for money. So under 20 lakhs, the Hyundai Creta is the safest option or the best option that you could go for. It's not as sporty to drive as the Seltos, but in terms of overall experience, refinement, quiet cabin, comfort, the Creta does better, and that's what we'd recommend. And now let's take some questions off Facebook. And first up, we've got Paresh, and it's a long question, but I'll just make it short. Paresh says he lives in Assam and he's looking for his first hatchback. He's given a number of options: Swift, Tiago, i10, Figo. Figo, he's asked about the diesel. And he says his priorities are ride and handling, safety ratings, comfort, mileage. He's going to use the car mostly in the city, and no road trippings involved, and village roads, hilly areas, so which car should he go for? So I think for all your parameters, especially safety, ride and handling, comfort, I think the Tiago makes a lot of sense, and that's what we'd recommend. If you want something sportier to drive, given that you're in a hilly area and you want something that's nicer handling and more involving, then the Swift is an option, but from all the things that you've listed, the Tiago is what you should go for. Lakshman writes to us and says that he will use the car for 1500 to 2000 kilometers a month. He will use the car mostly for long trips, and he's going to put 5 people in the car. He wants to know which one should he go for, the Nexon or the Amaze, a petrol or a diesel, and his priorities are safety, comfort, ride quality, low maintenance. So given that you're going to drive for up to 2000 or not more, we'd say go for the petrol instead of the diesel. And between the Amaze and the Nexon, I think both the cars offer great seating for 5 people. Amaze is also a wide car, and that's there. Comfort wise also they're pretty similar. Maybe the Nexon is a little more comfortable, plusher ride. But the thing is that if you were to look at a car just for the city, then we would have said Amaze. But since you said that you're going to use the car for long trips, and there's a hint of unpredictability that comes with longer trips because you don't know what sort of roads you're going to experience. So we'd say the Nexon would probably be a nicer, more peace of mind offering in that segment. So go for the Nexon. Joe writes and says that he wants to buy the Maruti Suzuki Ignis AMT. He's already got a Nissan Micra, and he says whether the Ignis is good to go. I mean, as a car, is it a good option? So it is, yes, definitely you should go for that. The petrol is a great car. I don't think there's any diesel anymore, but the Ignis petrol is a nice one, and with the AMT, I think they've done a nice job. So it's quite not exactly seamless, but it's almost there, like an automatic. And as for the Micra, you would probably you say you've done 37,000 kilometers, so you're probably looking at between 3 to 4 lakhs, depending on the condition of your Micra. That's the sort of money that you can expect that you will get back for the car. Sam wants to know when is the new Audi Q3 coming to India. So we thought it would come in 2020, but that's not happened. But I guess Audi needs to up its game in 2021. So far, they've only got essential CBUs, nothing that really sells a lot, no real number models, and they've really dropped down in the sales chart. So I think they would want some sort of revival coming in, and Q3 is a great car to bring that revival or initiate that revival. The new Q3 has been in the international markets for quite a while. So I guess we should see it in 2021, or if we don't, then we'd probably see a facelifted version of the new Q3. Probably that's what they'll bring. But we think 2021 is when we should see the new Q3. Sandeep wants to know which is the best automatic car to buy under 15 lakhs. He's going to use the car mainly in the city, and he's looking for comfort. So we'd say the city. CVT makes a lot of sense, the new city. Now you can buy the VX, but that would mean expanding that budget from 15 to maybe close to 16. But it would be well worth extending that budget, because you're going to keep the car for, I don't know, next 5 years, 7 years. So the VX, new Honda City CVT, is the one that makes sense. Jatin wants to buy a car for under 8 lakhs, and he's confused between the Altroz and the new Hyundai i20, which one he should go for. So we'd say go for the Hyundai i20. The Altroz is a well-built car. It's a nice car, good-looking car, but it just doesn't have the right engine options for it right now, especially the petrol. It just feels heavy and a little bogged down. The i20 in that sense is a newer car. It looks, you may or may not like the looks, but overall, I think it's spacious on the inside, and it's got the right drivetrain. So i20 would make more sense. And now let's take some questions off Twitter. First up, we've got Manoj. Manoj is really interested in buying the Harrier XZA Plus, the automatic, and wants to keep the car for 7+ years, and is wondering whether it's a good option to go for, reliable, comfortable, etc. In the long term. So yes, the Harrier, I think they've made a significant improvement from the first model that they launched to the one that they launched this year. The upgrade is there, improvements are there, it's a nicer car, and reliability wise, I don't think we've heard or experienced ourselves any sort of problem. So yes, if you like the Harrier, just go for it. I mean, it's a nicer car now than it was when it was launched, so that's always good news. Narendra wants to know how good is the Hyundai Venue automatic, particularly when it comes to the sunroof, because he says that he's heard about problems and increased costs because of the sunroof. So whether it's a good option to go for. Now, sunroof is one of those features that most people don't end up using. It's a feel-good feature, but not useful in any way. But if you're going to buy the top-spec Venue, you're going to get sunroof with it as default. There are no real problems that we've heard about, but I mean, if I were to buy a car with a sunroof, I'll probably use it as a regular roof, never open it, so that negates any problems that might appear. But we've not really heard. So Hyundai does sell a lot of top-spec versions, not just for the Venue, but for its other cars as well. Most of them have sunroofs, so if there were a problem, we would have heard. We haven't heard, so I don't think you need to be worried about that. Rohit says that he's a first-time car buyer and he is looking for a car essentially for highway use, intercity travel, and he's looking for an automatic, and he has listed two of his choices, the Tigor XMA or the Nexon XMA, and he doesn't want to spend more than 10 lakhs. So between these two, the Nexon is an easier car to suggest because it's got more space, it's more practical, it has higher ground clearance, and you're going to use the car on the highway. So I mean, it's just a nicer, better rounded option than the Tigor. And now let's take some questions from YouTube. Thank you so much for writing in. This is all of the video that we did last week. And let's start with Srinivas. Srinivas says, when will Tata launch the HBX? HBX, for those not in the know, is an SUV concept that Tata had shown at the Expo. It is a SUV that sits or will sit under the Nexon. It's a much smaller SUV. So in that sense, we expect the pricing to be similar to the Nissan Magnite, but the space and the size of the HBX would be lesser than the Magnite. So that's the segment, or that's the class where it's going to come in. And we should see the production version, or we should see the car being launched in 2021. When? We're not sure. I think first we'll have the Gravitas, then only after that will we see the HBX. Anita has written to us and says that a friend wants to buy the Nexon XZA. She wants to know what's it like in terms of cost of service, performance, resale, etc. The driving will be about 60 kilometers a week, and whether her friend should go for the petrol or the diesel. So clearly the petrol, because the driving isn't all that much. Now, when it comes to comfort, when it comes to ride quality, when it comes to space, I think the Nexon is a good option. Yeah, I mean, if your friend is keen on the Nexon, he or she should definitely go for it. No qualms there. It fits the needs of your friend. Rahul has asked us i20 or Sonet. Essentially a performance car with good backseat experience. So we'd say the i20 for your needs makes more sense. It sits closer to the ground. It's probably the feel of driving is better in a hatchback than an SUV. And the i20 is also more spacious when it comes to the seating at the back, especially for 3 abreast. So i20 would be the one to go for. Next, we've got an interesting name but simple question. We've got Dark Angel Poppy, and Dark Angel Poppy wants to know which is a good car to go for under 15 lakh rupees. Requirement: good space, essentially for 5 people, and a smooth automatic. So he says AMT, but automatic is probably what he's looking for. We'd say that you could look at the mid-spec versions of the Creta or the Seltos, depending on what your preference is. If we had to pick, we'd probably go with the Creta because it's a little more comfortable. But at the end, our suggestion would be drive the two and see which one you like more. Sachin wants to know which of the two should he go for. Should he go for the Sonet HTX Plus diesel? He says it's 13.5 lakhs, or the Creta EX diesel, which is also similarly priced. His requirements are economy, safety, service cost, and looks. Budget up to 14 lakhs, not more. So which one he should go for? So we'd say the Sonet makes more sense. You'll get more features in the Sonet for the same price. Yes, it's smaller, but unless you need seating for 5 and a larger boot, I think the Sonet makes more sense. It's a car that will work well in the city. It'll be easier to park. You'll get more value for your money in terms of features, and it's a good looking car. It's a modern looking car even on the inside. So between these two, for these specs and this money, we'd say the Sonet makes more sense than the Creta. Varun has asked us, what's the business logic behind companies like Toyota rebadging cars like the Brezza and the Baleno and selling them as their own? Since both companies have decent service network, how would a consumer choose one over the other, that the rebranded cars are almost the same as the original? So, firstly, I think the assumption that most people know that these are essentially the same cars is a wrong assumption. A lot of the customers out there do not know that these are the same cars, right? They might look similar to, let's say, the trained eye or people who are interested in the subject of cars, but those who are just buying cars, they really won't be able to say that the Brezza and the Urban Cruiser are essentially the same car, right? And probably they won't even look at them side by side or back to back to make that distinction or differentiation or similar, or draw this, draw similarity between the two. Now, the other reason for doing this, of course, or the main reason for doing this, of course, is that if Toyota were to build a sub 4-meter SUV, they would never be able to get the cost efficiencies right. They'll take time to build it, they'll have to build a vendor base, they'll have to do all of that to ensure that they can get the pricing at a place where it's actually going to sell. With this, they take a car that's proven, they take a car that's already doing well, and they price it similar to, let's say, the Brezza, and you've got a product ready. It fills up your showroom, it draws in more walk-ins, chances of sales are higher. Plus, there is a venture between Suzuki and Toyota, so that allows them to do that. The other thing, what works or can work in the Toyota's favor, especially when you consider that not every consumer knows that these are essentially the same cars, and even if they do, let's say you walk into a Toyota dealership and the Toyota sales person says, yes sir, it is essentially the Brezza, but it has been re-engineered by a Toyota to make it a Toyota. So the quality levels are higher, the engineering is better, safety is higher. There is no way for anybody to tell, right? And the moment you say that, you're automatically driven to that because you believe that Toyota is a richer, a more premium, a more upmarket brand than Suzuki. And it works for Maruti in a sense that they're getting more numbers for the same car, so economies of scales help. So they're already selling the Brezza, 10,000 units something, and then you've got 4,000-5,000 units of the Urban Cruiser selling. So overall, the numbers are a lot higher. So it's a win-win for both. That's why a lot of manufacturers, especially with close ties, rebadge each other's products. Hope that answers the question. Next, we've got Gavin, and Gavin is confused between the Sonet diesel automatic and the manual. He's a driving enthusiast. He likes manuals over automatics and wants to know, does the added 15 PS and 10 Newton meters change the driving dynamics, and is torque converter water wading friendly? So let's go backwards. Is the torque converter water wading friendly? Yes, it is, and that's how, if they say that the car is can wade through X mm of X 100 mm of water, then of course all of that has been considered. If you go deeper than that, then many other things could go wrong, including the airbox sucking in water. So yeah, that's one. Does 15 PS and 10 Newton meters make a difference on the road? Can you feel it? Yes, you can. In similar cars, yes, you can. If you had both manuals and there was a difference in power and torque, of course you'd be able to tell. But if it's between a manual and an automatic, then of course the driving dynamics change, or the way the cars feel, that changes, even if they're exactly the same horsepower and torque. So you can't really tell whether it's the difference is because of the automatic or is the difference because of the change in output figures. But yes, it does make a difference. Finally, whether you should go for the automatic or the manual, well, you've clearly underlined it that you like manuals more, you like driving, so clearly manual is the one you should go for. Next up, we've got Pavan, and Pavan is interested in the Harrier Petrol and wants to know when will it be launched. So like we said, it should come early next year, maybe March, maybe April, thereabouts, I think the first thing that will come is the Gravitas. If we see the Gravitas with the petrol, then we know the Harrier Petrol is just round the corner, but we'll see how that goes. The Gravitas should be out in late January, early Feb, thereabouts. So that will give us a right indication on when the Harrier Petrol will be coming. Anshu's asked us which is better for the city. He's essentially looking for an automatic, the Venue DCT or the Sonet Diesel 80, and he asks, are there any heating issues with the DCT, plus the city mileage for both. So the diesel naturally will give you better mileage than the petrol. Are there any heating issues with the DCT? Yes, we've seen that. It's not prevalent across. We see some sporadic cases here and there, but the idea is that it doesn't really damage anything, it doesn't harm anything. All it does is it probably insists or asks you to park on the side and wait till the system cools down. There is a way around it. You can, whenever you're driving in stop and go traffic, you can always move to neutral when you come to a stop. So the drivetrain is not constantly in a active mode, so to say. So yeah, so that's the thing about the DCT, and whether you should go for the Venue or the Sonet. So you haven't told us about your the kilometers you'd be driving. So if you're driving anything under 2,500, go for the Venue petrol. If you're driving anything over 2,500, then of course you go with the diesel, which in your case is the Sonet diesel. Varun is asking us about the global NCAP star ratings. He says the Kia Seltos got 3 stars, but the Venue got 4 stars. So when they actually test the Sonet, will it get 3 or 4? So we'd say that the Sonet is essentially the Venue in a different set of clothing, a different top hat, and it would probably toe the line of the Venue. So 4 stars is what you can expect with the Sonet. Varun further asks us whether having the 3-star rating for Seltos, is it a valid concern for people when they're buying a car. So let's say the star ratings are not your pass or fail ratings. They're just in a scale. So every car has passed, because I mean that's the only way that you can sell the car in India once it crosses or passes the safety test, crash test that we do here. It is done at 56, G-NCAP is done at 64. It's naturally faster, so I mean at a higher speed. But is 3-star a concern? No. Is 5-star better? Yes. Should you make your buying decision based on 3 or 5 stars? Well, that also depends on what version you're going for, because depending on the versions, you will have more safety kit. And for 5 stars, you need ESP. Without ESP, you don't get 5 stars. So base versions for these cars probably don't come with ESP. So there are a lot of things in place there. But to basically answer your question, is 3-star G-NCAP rating a concern? Should you or should you not buy a car based on that? We don't think you should be worried about that. 3-star is fine. Seltos is a nice car. I mean, there are no real issues. If you like the car, you should buy it. Kirti has written to us and asked us, or is telling us that they've booked a Kia Sonet GTX Plus diesel, and where the question is whether the automatic gearbox is fuel efficient and reliable, and what sort of fuel efficiency they can expect with a lighter foot. So we'd say that in terms of reliability, in terms of fuel efficiency, the Kia Sonet Diesel 80, there are no concerns there on both counts. I mean, it's a yes, it's reliable, and yes, it's efficient. Nitesh has written to us and asked us whether he should buy a car now in December 2020 or should he wait for 2021. And his options are Nissan Magnite, CVT, the Triber AMT, and the Urban Cruiser AMT. So we'd say buy now and buy the Magnite CVT. The pricing that they've announced only holds true till December, then there will be a price increase. We don't think the price increase will be significant, but there will be a price increase. So it makes sense to buy the Magnite now in December and make use of the introductory price. Ritvik has written to us and has asked us whether he should go for the MG Hector or the Kia Seltos. So it finally depends on what you want from an SUV. For the Hector, it's got space, it's got a premium feel, it's got some fancy features in it, so that's what works for it. For the Seltos, compared to the Hector, you've got, I don't know, like a stronger brand name, so to speak, given the Hyundai backing that Kia comes with. You've got a car that's sportier to drive. Of course, it lacks space, but if you like driving, then the Seltos is a nicer car to go for. So that's where you need to pick and choose. And if you are looking at essentially driving on the highway, and if you're looking at petrol options, then maybe the Seltos makes more sense. The Hector, probably if you're looking at diesel, though it's got a heavy clutch, that might be a better option. Srinivas has written a long question, but the gist of it is that he's looking for an automatic car for under 10 lakhs. He had the Ritz and now he wants to change that, and he is looking at the Amaze or the Magnite. Both are CVT equipped cars. Which one should he go for? We'd say right now, I think if you're buying now in December, then the Magnite makes a lot of sense. You get a new SUV, you get more features than you get on the Amaze. You've got a CVT that's, I would say the Nissan CVT works better than probably the Amaze's CVT. You've got a turbo engine. So Magnite makes more sense today if you're buying in December. Aaron has asked us which makes for a better package or a better buy, the Creta in the base E trim, or the Ciaz in the Alpha Petrol trim, or the Nexon Petrol in the XZ Plus. Budget is around 12 lakh rupees. Requirements are comfort, good drivability, feature and value for money. Of the three, we'd say the Nexon, because you can get a fair amount of features. The Nexon has space, it has easy ingress egress, it's a more practical car to buy on our roads, and if you want to take it outside. So given the three options, we'd say when it comes to value for money and good ownership experience, given the whole package, the Nexon makes more sense. Raju has asked us which is the best hatchback to buy under 10 lakh. We'd say the Jazz CVT is a great option to go for. Space, practicality, good CVT, under 10 lakhs, good car to go for. Santosh says that he is interested in the Jazz. He likes the features, he wants to buy the CVT, and his only question is whether it makes sense to go for a turbo petrol or the naturally aspirated that's on the Jazz. So Jazz, I mean, when you buy a car, you buy more than just an engine. And if you like the Jazz and you like it for the right reasons, we'd say that it would make sense for you to go for the Jazz. Yes, the turbo petrols are nicer if you're looking for punchy performance, but if you're looking for regular drivability, just general good driving experience, then the naturally aspirated petrols also work. And the 1.2 on the Jazz is a reliable, known, proven engine, so go for the Jazz since you like it so much. Nirmal wants to know which is a better option, the Kia Sonet HTX IMT 1 litre petrol or the 1.5 litre diesel manual. Both cars, he says, are coming at the same price, and his priority is engine life and performance and good resale value. You haven't said, you haven't mentioned how many kilometers you're going to drive, so that would be a thing. So if you're going to drive less, go for the petrol. If you're going to drive more, go for the diesel. But now that they're similarly priced, which one should you go for? Diesel is going to be a noisier experience. Diesel is going to be a more efficient experience. Diesel, you're going to lose a little more money in the resale market. So that's what happens with the diesel. With the petrol, you get a more driver-friendly experience. You get a car that's quieter, and of course you get better resale. So that's what you should look for. In terms of lag on turbos, I think you don't really feel it in either car so much. Like I said, I mean, the petrol is just nicer to drive, nicer to hear, nicer to rev. That's where, if I were to pick, I'd go for the petrol. Dheeraj has asked us a long question, and it's split in three parts. The first part is, if ride comfort and driving pleasure are priorities, should one go for a compact SUV or a mid-size sedan? That completely depends on which SUV and which mid-size sedan you're going for. But mid-size sedans, closer to the ground, low seating position, nicer experience. SUVs probably more practical, more rugged in the sense that you're not afraid of taking on speed breakers or poor roads. So yeah, but ride comfort and driving pleasure, I'd say a sedan would make more sense. The second part of the question is that the base or mid versions of the Honda City / Volkswagen Vento automatic cost almost as much as the top spec compact SUVs. If ride comfort, driving pleasure are priorities, which makes a better option? Top trim of the compact SUV or mid trim of C segment sedan? So if driving pleasure is your priority, then how does it matter who's, whether it's a top spec or not? Features change, the car doesn't change as such. So if you like driving, we'd say, yeah, go for the Vento or the City. And if you want feel-good features, if you want a nicer ownership experience in the sense that you've gotten more value for the money that you've paid, then of course compact SUVs make more sense because you're getting more bells and whistles with the car. And the third part of the question is Sonet IMT GTX Plus or Volkswagen Vento automatic base trim. Only ride comfort and driving dynamics are priorities. So again, like we said, if you like driving, go for the sedan. If you want a car with more feel-good features, go for the compact SUV top spec trims. Anand is asking us, has asked us what he says is a non-car buying question, which it is. He wants to know, he says that he's in a habit of driving a manual car, both petrol and diesel, and he likes to shift at 2000 RPM. Is that a good habit or a bad habit? Now, most diesels now, all diesels are turbocharged, and the turbo comes on song at about 1500 to 1800. So when you shift at 2000, you are probably, if you're not dropping under 1500, then there's no problem. You'll have a good, nice driving experience because it'll ride the torque curve or the torque wave. But then again, it depends on which car you're driving. Some cars, if they're taller geared, then you shift at 2000, it drops under 15, and then you're waiting for it to go on. So, but if that doesn't happen, then of course there's no harm in driving like that. Even if it does, there's no real harm. Only thing is that because it'll drop off the power band, and then you'd want to go faster, so you'll floor the accelerator, which will probably will probably consume more fuel. For the petrols, again the same thing. We're not talking about turbo petrols, we're talking about naturally aspirated petrols. They pull cleanly from 1200 thereabouts. So if you shift it to, you will fall off the power band in that sense, and you have to wait. For petrols, I'd suggest that go up to 2.5, maybe closer to 3. So then you're riding that sweet spot. That's how I would say. But again, there's no harm in shifting at 2000 RPM. Nothing goes wrong with the engine unless you drop to, let's say, an RPM so low that the car is actually lugging. So it's going. That's something that you want to avoid because that'll damage. But otherwise, I think it's fine. Gopal has written to us and asked us, or he's telling us that he shortlisted the Kia over the i20, but his concerns are that in the HTX diesel version that he has chosen, the Sonet doesn't come with an ESC, and the ESC equipped version is the GTX, which is 2.6 lakh more expensive. But the i20 with the Asta comes with ESC and 6 airbags. So what he's worried about is that the Sonet is a taller car. So do you really need ESC or stability program? So the idea with the stability program is that it's really helpful in two conditions. One, when you have really overcooked it going into a corner and then made some random corrections and the car sliding all over the place, maybe it'll help you. It will prevent that slide. The other thing is that you suddenly chance upon slippery surfaces like black ice or if there's snow or if there's gravel. And again, you're a little too fast and the car starts to move around and you can't catch it, so the ESC helps. If you're going to buy a car for the city, chances are the ESC will never ever come on. So, and it's got nothing to do with the center of gravity of where the car is. ESC is about the traction that your tires have. So is it a problem? Should you always buy a car with an ESC? Not really, especially if you're driving in the city. You don't really need it, especially if you're driving in city where you're not going to have black ice, etc. No, don't bother with it. I think ESC is, like I said, more helpful on highways, on slippery surfaces, on around corners, if you overcook it, that sort of thing. Between the i20 and the Sonet, which one should you go for, given that the i20 comes with 6 airbags and ESC? I would say go for the i20. Not that you need the ESC, but having 6 airbags is always good. Having some additional driver aid is always good. So if I were to make a choice, I'd make that choice. But of course, if you like the Sonet, it's absolutely fine to buy one without the ESC. Srinath says that he owns a Honda City 2019 ZX Petrol. The stock tire size is 185/55 R16 and he feels that the ride is too stiff and harsh and he can feel every bump on the inside. He's planning to upgrade to a 195/60 R16 and he says upsizing the sidewall, will there be any issue with the suspension and other parts? So if you've suddenly started feeling that the ride is harsh, maybe that's got something to do with the suspension and not so much with the tires. So you want to, maybe you want to take a look at that. But yes, if you go for a 190 with a 60 aspect ratio, you'll have a taller sidewall, which means your primary ride will be much better than the one with 185/55. So clearly there's an advantage there, but a larger tire or a wider tire also means more friction, it means more weight, and that's going to be a little more work for the car and the suspension system there. And the other thing that you got to be careful about is that now you've increased the rolling circumference or you've got a lot more tire there, and so when you turn the steering you need to see whether it fouls. And not just when it's static, maybe when you're turning and you get on the brakes, you're loading the front suspension, you would see that probably there isn't enough clearance and it'll rub against the wheel well, which you don't want. So these kind of things you got to be careful about. You got to see what sort of clearance you have and then pick a size. Darshan has asked us, how is the Kia Sonet DCT? So I think our answer is it's a nice car to go for, good option if you want something to drive in the city to tackle stop and go traffic, or if you are a lazy driver, it's great because you don't have to go through the whole shifting and pressing the clutch, etc. Lingesh has written to us and he's asking us which is the best 7-seater for 20 lakhs. Now honestly, if you want like a really good 7-seater, maybe 20 lakhs as a budget might be a little on the lower side, because if you want a good proper 7-seater, you're looking at the likes of the Innova and the Carnival. The Carnival is a more comfortable 7-seater, more spacious, great for on-road. The Innova, on the other hand, is a proven, commodity. It's more hardy off-road or on poor roads or when it's completely loaded. So that's the thing. But if you cannot spend over 20 lakhs, then you're going to get 7-seaters or 6-seaters that are not really great at that job. So there's a compromise in the last 2 seats, and then if you wait a little, you'll have the Gravitas, which will again be sort of a compromise in the last 2 rows. You have the Hector Plus, you've got, and if you go really low down, you've got the Ertiga, which is in a sense closer to a proper 7-seater, but still a 5+2. But if 7-seater, that's the goal, then we'd say that increase your budget a bit and settle for the Innova, or if you can really extend it, go for the Carnival because that works better. Pankaj says that his budget is 12 lakh rupees and he wants a really spacious, comfortable SUV. Which one should he go for? I think the Nexon makes a lot of sense. It's got space, it's got good ride, it's dynamically pretty good, and so yeah, the Nexon is the car that you should go for. Virat says that he owns a 2015 model Swift and Desire VDI, and that being a diesel, yes, naturally. And he thinks, do you think I would get a better resale, he says, value now than later? I guess the resale value is not going to improve for that car because the diesels are out of production, and diesels in generally don't have a very strong resale. So no, it's not going to increase anytime soon. It's only going to go down. And he wants us to recommend a car for between 25 to 30 lakhs for a family of 4, majorly in city, and the needs are space, comfort and performance. So I think the car that you should go for is the Superb. That's the one that would really fit the bill here. It's comfortable and spacious for 4. It's got the right equipment. It's quick. It's nice to drive, be it in the city or on the highway. It's safe. It's got all sorts of bells and whistles. So yeah, the Superb is the one you should go for. And that's a wrap on All About Cars. Thank you so much for watching. Do comment, share, subscribe, and continue to ask your questions. Thank you.